Well, good morning. Today we're going to go through some little flea bay listings and discuss a few problems I'm having with that fine little auction site and some associated companies, and kind of talk about stupid today because sometimes things just get so stupid that you have to laugh about them, otherwise you're going to go insane, I guess. So let's start this off with a little bit of email stuff. Now, one of these that I've gotten, and I'm going to have to tighten up my spam filters a little bit, and I try and answer all my emails, if they're anything halfway relevant or halfway intelligent, and part of the time when they're not even intelligent at all, because sometimes, like I say, things get so stupid that you just have to laugh about it. So I have an email this morning, and I had an email, I think probably from the same outfit last week that, well, let's start off with this one. This one, the heading is, "Are you dead or alive?" And it's from the International Monetary Fund. And in parentheses it says IMF. Well, to me that almost sounds like Mission Impossible type stuff, but nonetheless. Power of attorney was forwarded to our office this morning by two gentlemen. One was an American national and another one was a Canadian national, and they claim to be my representatives and have a power of attorney stating that I'm dead. And this concerns the $12.5 million US dollars, which is now lying dormant and unclaimed, that I'm a beneficiary from. So, I'm pretty much rich as it is, it seems like already now. This one says that, stated that I'm dead, and let's see, that I suffered and died from throat cancer. So last week I had apparently been in a horrendous car accident and I couldn't walk. So I must have got this throat cancer and died from complications from that car accident, as near as I can tell, because this is all the same stupidity going on. Let's see here. Yeah, and it said that, let's see, where is it here? Because I want to present this right. I want you to have all the facts, And I've been given 24 hours to confirm the truth of this information. If you're still alive, you're to contact us back immediately, because we work 24 hours just to ensure that we monitor all the activities going on in regards to the transfer of beneficiaries, inheritance, and contract payment. And it goes on a little bit. So I felt like I needed to respond back to him. So I said, yes, unfortunately it is true. I have died from throat cancer, and I asked them to please forward my inheritance to the American Cancer Society, as I wish to thank them for my excellent care, even though they allowed me to die. So we'll see what kind of response I get back from that. That's just today's stupid that's going on. So we wasted a few minutes on that to have a little bit of a chuckle over it. On that same thing, before we get on to much more serious business for today, is I've got 3 or 4 websites, and one of them's the hillsgun website, another one is the Atlas Machine Shop, but I've got a couple other ones that are used for private stuff and family stuff, basically. And I periodically get these wonderful calls from companies representing individuals, or individuals representing companies that are based out of India. And I consider these all to be spam calls. I find them extremely irritating, and they show up with phone numbers usually throughout the United States from different locations, or Canada sometimes, but it never says they're from India. Now, I realize everybody has to make their way in life. Everybody's trying to make a living. These times are a little bit harder than others may have been in the past and things. But when you call me from India and you tell me in your Indian accent that you are representing some company, whatever the case may be, and you want to talk to me about one of my websites. Now, the thing about this is you cannot even pronounce the name of the website properly. It is so butchered up that you're cold calling trying to get business. And I do understand that. But when I ask you where you are, why, you'll tell me you're representing this company. So if I ask you where the weather is, say in New Jersey, for example, which is where this call may have originated from, or Florida, and you don't have a good answer for me, and I actually ask you where you're from, and you finally fess up that you're from India, my response is, how can I trust you with management of my website or anything related to that when you're already lying to me about where you are? So the gist of that is I've been hung up on several times, and it's become a game. So if you want to waste my time, I want to waste yours too. You know, I mean, it's a fun little thing to do. And I've had people tell me that that it's people like me that should not be allowed to, and that's about the time they hang up on me, or things like that. Because that's what I feel you're doing. If you're lying to me, if you're not willing to even tell me, or honestly enough, be calling from your location and telling me honestly where you're from, while you're lying to me to start with. So anyway, I've had fun having people hang up on me over that the last few weeks too. So anyway, we'll move on to something that actually is of some relevance, but just the continuation of stupid. My sand molar project. As most of you know, I had ordered a piece of steel for the main hub off of Fleabay. Well, that seller decided he wasn't going to ship, so eBay ended up and got involved and refunded my money, and we moved on. So we found another piece of steel on eBay, and the gist of this is every place that I've checked so far around my area either has not been available at all, or if I've had to have it shipped in, it's been very expensive for what it is. And it ended up, I found another piece of steel on Fleabay, ordered it, and it was shipped immediately. I think the seller is a straight up seller. You know, I think for the most part they do a lot of stuff, and this is a thing that they got it shipped out. Actually, it was the shipping label was created on July 27th. It was picked up and departed to the post office on the 27th. And I'm reading the tracking history off of the USPS post office, and there's a difference between the tracking I'm getting here and the tracking presented by eBay. On the 28th of July, it arrived in Indianapolis at the distribution center annex. And the last thing that it shows now on the USPS website as of August 1st is in transit, arriving late. Your package will arrive later than expected, but is still on its way. It is currently in transit to the next facility. Now that's what the US Post Office website tells me. And I hadn't started comparing it to what eBay's tracking shows me, which is still a tracking number off of USPS, I'm assuming. It shows on July 27th, it departed the post office in Middlebury, Indiana at 5:02 p.m. On the 28th at 12:24, it was processed through the facility at Indianapolis in the distribution center. On July 31st at 5:21 p.m., it showed, and this is the eBay tracking, shows visible damage Spokane. Normally when something that's being shipped in hits the Spokane distribution center, I see it here at my doorstep within 1 or 2 days. So that was July 31st. So I sat and waited, and assuming that the contents of this package, and the only variable in this is how well it was packaged. It was packaged in a flat rate box, and maybe it could have been packaged better. I honestly don't know. I've emailed back and forth with the seller several times. It's been a very good experience. He's responded back immediately, and this is an industrial sales company. And I think they're being straight up on it. Like I say, the only variable that I don't know about is how well it was packaged, and I think the seller's done a good job responding to me and been very very accommodating as they could. He's tried to open a claim. The post office wouldn't allow him because it wasn't, it hadn't been a long enough period type of thing. So on August 5th, I opened an online request to find out what was going on with this. I got a call back from our local post office here, talked to the guy. He said he didn't, on their tracking, it shows the same thing as what's on the official website package. He said he didn't show it as having received in Spokane at all. And questioned whether it might be an automatically generated response, something like that. I personally think that it's made it to Spokane, it showed visible damage, and I think that's where the packaging sits. But what he said I needed to do, or the best thing to do, would be to go down to my local post office, open up a claim for it, and or I don't remember what they call it, a package or a mail recovery request or something like that. So I trotted down to the post office. The guy there was very accommodating, did a very good job, and the guy I talked to on the phone was trying to be very accommodating. Talked to the guy at the post office, filled out the paperwork and everything. He said, well, what's happened is it's arrived in Spokane. It was damaged. He says they're going to repackage it and deliver it. So I kind of took him at his word. When I looked later that day, and I'm looking at the tracking here on August 5th, package research case created here locally. Later that day at 1:33, after I'd been down to the post office, why it shows package research case closed here. And that's the last of the tracking that I see on that. So what I suspect has happened is the packaging has made it to Spokane. I think the contents of that package are probably still sitting back in Indianapolis, Indiana, if they made it that far. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, that's the saga of trying to find a piece of 4-inch round stock 4 inches long. This has gone on for better than a month with this, and I still don't have any material, and I've got money tied up, and it's, it's not a tremendous amount. It's $60 probably that's out there now floating around in space that eventually I will probably get back, I'm suspecting, in the interim while I'm still searching for a piece of stock. Now, I do have a lead on a kind of local supplier that a friend of mine thinks may have that stock, and we're looking now at the farm supplier type of steel suppliers, and it's a little bit of a drive for me to go and get it if I have to do that, but that's probably what's going to end up and happen if they have it in stock. So anyway, there's my bitch there. So between Flea Bay and the post office, why I'm not happy, I still am no farther along on my sand muller project, and well, I am a little bit farther along, but I'm kind of waiting on stuff for that piece of material. So anyway, there's the gist of that I'm ranting and raving about, rambling on about this morning. So I guess the people that get in my way today may not like what I say about them. So anyway, let's go on to our Flea Bay stuff, and I've not gone through this at all today. Just because I thought we'd go through it together. Now, there is a few things that I've watched come and go the last few days, and I haven't taken the time to comment on. One of them was the Atlas Shaper feed cover, like I showed yesterday, the one that I'd attempted to cast for the first time. And there was one of those appeared used here a few days ago, and I marked it and made sure that I went back and washed it, because you don't see those appear very often. It was used, looked to be in good condition. It had paint on it, but it didn't appear to be broken where they will normally break, which is up on the top two little ears on either side. And as I said before, those break when they run to the end of the travel. When they run clear to the end of the travel, something's going to break, and that's the thing that gives up first on the Atlas Shapers on the power feeds. So this one was initially listed, and I apparently saw it right after it was listed. It was listed for $69.95 or $69.99, $69, just under $70. And new listing, looked to be in good condition. And I went back and checked it a few hours later. It had not sold yet, but it was listed for $79. And this was from a seller that's been around and somebody that's parting out a machine, and people parting out machines are not near and dear to my heart. We know that. I've stated that before, and that's the way I'm going to continue to feel about it. I'm going to continue to rant and rave about it. And it's going to continue to happen both on parting out machines, on exorbitant prices, on deceiving us in the condition that they're listed in until we make it stop. You know, I mean, until we decide we're not going to tolerate it, just like we've got to decide we're not going to tolerate a lot of other things that are happening in the world. Until that time, we stand up and say enough's enough. Why, we're going to see these things being overpriced, us being deceived about how the condition of them, and about people taking good machines and tearing them apart. So those are my rants and raves there. I went back just a few hours later and I considered buying it just to compare it against the good feed cover that I've got, which is a perfectly acceptable one, comparing it against the broken one that I've got, which is not a perfectly acceptable one. And but I thought I didn't really need to do it, and somebody else probably needed that feed cover more than I do now. Even at $79, and that listing, I'm relatively sure it started out at 69, went to 79. Once the sellers got to investigating it, thought they could get a little more money out of it. It didn't last long. The next morning when I went and checked stuff, why, it was gone. So somebody jumped on that. It was a good buy, and somebody hopefully has a good feed cover for their Atlas Shaper. So anyway, that's one that I saw. Now let's just go back through some of these things. And if we start off with my normal little things I'm looking at, I haven't gone through this stuff today. I thought we'd kind of go through it together. I do see a milling machine vise here, pre-owned M1301, $275 and free shipping. In today's day and age, that's probably a pretty good buy for what they're going for. Now, it does not, no, this may not be, no, this is not a good buy because this is not a complete vise. This does not have the swivel base on it. This has the vise itself, but it does not have the swivel base. So I consider it not to be a good buy. You know, free shipping. It's in relatively good shape. It's missing the fixed jaw. You know, it's not on there, which there again, we're replacing them with aluminum ones. We're making them, you know, making our own, that type of thing. But it is missing that jaw. It appears to have, there are some marks on the top of the vise. Yeah, a few little, you know, you expect to see a few little normal dings, but there's some cutter gouges there. There's some things that are not as they should be there. For just a vise, if it would have had the swivel base to it, it's probably a pretty good buy for what they're going for. Now, I've said before, it looks like I see a little bit of scarfing on the lead screw where somebody's drilled on through. The bed's not been drilled, which is, you see a lot of that get whacked out. Decent used condition. Is it spectacular? No. Is it what you normally see in a lot of these, in the condition of a lot of these? Yeah, it is. It's in relatively good condition, but without the swivel base, why, it's not really you've lost a whole lot of that utility. So the thing to remember about vices, and it doesn't remember, yeah, the screw on it has been drilled into. The thing to remember about these vices, whether they're for the mills or the shapers, is a lot of times you will see them listed with no visible damage on the tops and that type of thing, and that will say that in the description. Many times those have been machined off, you know, and on the shaper especially, they'll run a shaper cutter across the whole top of the vise. So in the top of the vise itself, you may not see any markings, you may not see any drill or cutter marks, and it's because they've been machined away. So a lot of times it doesn't take much to clean those up. So that's something to look for on these. So I don't consider that a real good buy. We're seeing a tremendous amount of milling attachments for all of the lathes, and somebody had asked me a while back, were there not that many of these accessories, not necessarily the milling attachments, but a lot of these accessories like index centers and stuff, were there very many of those made, which is why they're so rare and demand such high prices? And I don't believe that's true. I believe the reason you're not seeing too many of a lot of these accessories is once someone acquires that accessory, if they've kept the machine, even though they may not use that accessory, such as an index center, very often why that goes with the machine. So they get tucked away in a drawer or on a shelf for when they are needed. So that's why you don't see them. Right now we're seeing a lot of milling attachments offered, and I believe it's because people have seen that they're bringing such big dollars. It's there again, that market's been driven and promoted as these parts are so rare that you better get them while you can. So no, they're not that rare. They don't always come up that often, but they're not rare. So don't get into the buying frenzy off of this, for $300, $400, $500, $600 for a milling attachment. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that's just ridiculous. I've seen a lot of stuff here lately that I've put into my watch list, and I've immediately gotten a offer with a fair amount off on some of these things. I think I mentioned before on the safety guards on the 10-inch lathe, why there's a seller that was trying to get big bucks, and he reduced those like 20%, 25%, I don't remember what it was now. Here we've got some ball handles, lathe mill ball crank, 3/8 ID, Atlas Craftsman, etc. You go and you look at these and you think that they're new, is what they are, and you think, boy, that's a pretty good, you don't see those very often, that's a fairly good buy. I don't believe it is, because when you look at them, they're not dedicated to that machine. When you start reading the descriptions, the keyway is not the right size. They have to, and the seller's admitting that they're not, don't know what they originally came from, but they fit on they're appropriate for on the Atlas machines. If you just need a handle, that's fine. When you look at them, they're somebody's aftermarket handle, which is probably still available, to have this many, and this seller has several sets of them. For them still to be available, why to have this many of them as new stock, why they're available from somebody. I don't know who they are. And when you look at them, when you look at most of the Atlas handles, they're a balanced handle. So if they've got a extending crank handle out one side going into the ball, and then there's a ball on the other end, on most of the Atlas stuff, that ball on the other end is bigger, so you've got a balanced handle. Whereas you look at these and they're just a round knob on each end with a handle stuck out there. Does it really make a difference on the Atlas machines? Probably not, but one of the claims to fame on a lot of machine tool handles is that they're a balanced handle, so they basically got the same weight on both sides. So the one that's actually got the crank handle on it has a smaller ball that it attaches to, so they've got the same weight and balance on both sides, or approximately the same. So, and I believe I commented on these before. New unopened boxes, Craftsman Atlas lathe milling attachment, M6500 and M6945. $750 your best offer. If you are getting, and I believe that's what these are, you are getting brand new attachments. The problem is, if you want these as users, why, you don't know what condition they're in inside. What environment have they been stored in? Are they a complete rust bucket inside? You pays your money, takes your chances. I think that's too much money anyway, but you don't know what you've got. So, knee mill Atlas vintage carriage, lead screws, nuts, gears, pre-owned. I don't believe those are Atlas parts to start with. Well, let's look at it a little bit closer. Yeah, these don't even fit an Atlas. These are not Atlas parts here. And $300 for them would be, even if they were Atlas parts, that's way too much. Somebody's smoking dope again. Milling machine need chip guard cover plate, set of 3, and somebody's bid on these at $50. You got to hold these guys accountable. All these are is pieces of sheet metal. Now, originally they were probably zinc plated, some sort of plating was on them. And it was probably a zinc plating, I'm guessing. I haven't researched them that much. Cost to manufacture those in your own home shop is probably less than $10. This has got the 3 covers and the screws. This has been one of my projects that's on the list to do, is to take measurements of these and reproduce them. Now, I don't know what this comes with the screws, which there's only 2 mounting screws. I believe those are probably a 1032. What's going to happen is when I have opportunity, I'm going to pull the table off of my milling machine. When we get on that, get to building actual milling machine parts, I'm going to take dimensions off of these. I do have the drawings for at least one of these covers. It's in one of the, it's in the files section out there on the internet someplace. I've got copies of one of them, and I can't remember which one it is, if it's the upright or if it's for the cross slide. Like I say, cost to build those probably about $10. We'll set those up, pull dimensions, and that's a project that we'll do. We'll video it. You can have the dimensions. You can build your own. I'll show you how I build a set of them cheaply and inexpensively. There we go. Atlas milling machine, cross slide, lead screw, hand wheel, nuts, etc. Parts only $100, 0 bids, 20/40 shipping. You're getting ripped off. Horizontal milling machine, 2 ball crank table handles, dial collar, and nuts. $61, 2 bids, $9.55 shipping. I guess if you have to have them, Here's a cross slide M1-5 with Gibbs screws, lock handles, $150, no bids, $8.45 shipping. That's too much money. Too much money. Yeah, now here's the 7B metal shaper milling machine feed and ratchet gear case with Euler S7-22D, $69.99. That's a backing plate for that, for the cover itself. And this is from the same seller. Seller has been around for a while, parting out these machines. This is the later model, because the early model, as we've talked about before, was cast iron. This is one of these Zamac parts, I believe. When you look farther down, like one of the other sellers, they show you comparable items on down below. One of the other sellers, and I believe I remember this seller, he's one of them that does some reproduction parts for way too high prices, $118.99 and $5 shipping. Too much money, being ripped off. As shown in good used condition. Now, we have gone away from the excellent condition. I am not seeing nearly as many listings that say excellent condition. Yeah, bullshit. So anyway, this is the same seller, and this one stayed at $69. I'm sure that the outer cover originally was $69 and he raised it to $79. The milling machine feed and ratchet gear. Now, is this that same seller? This one has been, yeah, this is the same seller, $100. I believe someone had one of these listed, and it was about 125 or 150. Milling attachments, knee lift screws, things like that. These are way too much money. And then we're back down to ones that we talked about before. The headstock end of the mill dividing had $700 by it now, and that's stupid. That's smoking dope. And if you're stupid enough to buy it, you deserve it. I think this is probably this is the same seller. Got the change-o-matic assembly. Yeah, this might be a different change-o-matic assembly for $1,000. These people are smoking dope. How foolish. How foolish, foolish, foolish. Let's go up and let's move on here. Shaper stuff. There's a 7B shaper for $2,000. It's got, what does it have? I believe it's got the vise on it. Yes, it's got the vise. This machine's been repainted. Complete vise on the stand. It's on the metal legs. It looks to be in relatively good condition just off the top of my head here. It's got all the guards on it. Switch cover's not original. What else have we done here? The crossfeed lead screw, they put some big obnoxious handle on there. doesn't have a tool holder, it doesn't appear. Looks like the tool bit's just held in the tool post itself. You know, shaper, $2,000 for an Atlas shaper. Probably not a bad deal. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. You gotta temper what they're actually worth as to what the market's going to bear and what you're going to pay for them. Then we're back down to this plastic side cover and things like that. Yeah, right below that side plate or that side cover is a Atlas Marcato pasta maker. Yeah, they're both worth about the same probably. Let's see here. Let's go to a look at Atlas lathe stuff. We always get a real good chuckle out of that. Commercial stuff. I don't look at commercial stuff. Lead screws. You know, lead screws are wore out. 12-inch lathe, 12 or commercial. I don't look at commercial. Good condition, runs great, lots of tooling. $1,000 or best offer. What is this? This is a... What are we looking at here? Let's look at the description. Perfect working condition. Lathe instilled in a 2-inch platform. If someone needs a work desk for it, we can negotiate it as well. Lathe is made in the USA. It will work forever because not made in China. Oh, it's a... what is this? That's a 618. Yeah. $1,000. Let's see. Let's look at it. What's it look like? Yeah, got a few modifications done to it. It's looks to be complete. Been kind of used pretty hard. Got some change gears with it. Yeah, it's seen a fair amount of use. You know, I can't say that's a bad deal, but it's too much money. Oh, someone just got a hell of a deal because I wasn't fast enough to do it because I would have bought that one. Here's a 6-position turret stop, 691A. This is the 6-position turret stop for the Atlas lathe. And you've seen the one that I've got. This one sold for $9.99 and $17.45 shipping. It says, I hadn't even looked at the listing, there's a crack in the casting. This will eventually need to be dealt with, but could, let's see. Atlas 910 12-inch lathe with 3/8-inch thick bed, turret turns smoothly and clicks in place. Very good condition, except for a problem with cracks in the clamping area. Really cranked down on a 3/8 bed. Yeah, this was set up for the earlier 3/8-inch bed. But see, now the thing I have is it's got a crack in it, so its life as a collector's item is over. This should not be a collector's item at all. Yeah, the idea that's part of the problem with all of this is they're listed as a collector's item. These should not be considered a collector's item. These should be considered a good functional machine that you're going to use, and that's the problem. That's why they're allowed to be. That's why the prices are allowed to be run so far out of proportion. Now this looks like the threading stops are a little bit short, although that may very well be what it came with. It's been used. It would be a good functional work stop. Now this was a really good buy. Yeah, this was a really good buy. Huh. Missed that one. Part of the game. Whoever got that, congratulations. Yeah, that went fast. 618 compound rests. Brand new. Now this one started out at bids $1. These have been listed, and we've seen these before with buy it nows of $100, $125, $150. I don't remember. I think the least expensive I've seen them listed has been for $100. So somebody's decided that some of these replacement parts are not worth what the market will not support them. And if we make sure that we let everybody know that they will not support them, that's the way it is. So. Change gears. Let's see, here's a 10-inch cast iron gear cover, guard, hinges with pins, $25, $24.99, and $12.99 shipping. That's where these parts should be listed at. That's what they're worth. We've got to quit considering them as consumers. We've got to quit considering them to be collector's items. They're not a collector's item. They're a piece of equipment that can be used in our home shop. Once we instill that in our own minds, and once we start shopping for parts with that in mind, that they're just a usable piece of equipment and not a collector's item, the price will come down on them. When we refuse to pay the good price for these, or the astronomical prices for these, we'll get the prices back down. New listing, new 9-11X transverse gear case assembly for older Atlas Craftsman, brand new, $179.99. No, if you're going to do that, you need to research it and build your own if you need one that bad. There's ways around that. Here's a bunch of these new parts like that. Atlas Craftsman 10-inch lathe horizontal counter shaft assembly. It's got the motor mount, the horizontal mounts, the upper $250 and $50 shipping. No, that's bullshit. 10-inch cutoff lathe. Now here's a 10-inch lathe headstock. It's got the motor, the counter shaft assembly, and everything. Compound on it. The bed's been cut off, so it's basically going to be a speed lathe that the bed is cut off just slightly longer than the feet underneath the headstock. $500 your best offer. Those are parts pieces. If you want to give me that for $250, I'd probably buy it. Other than that, I'm not buying it for $500. 12-inch lathe compound tool post slide and upper swivel assembly, $185 and $13 shipping. Now, not going to happen. Here's another set of original Atlas Craftsman 10-12-inch lathe, 10309 bevel pin set for upper pre-owned, $18.99 and $2.99 shipping. That's the one that we showed how to build for about $2. Now these are the things that I see that I do take offense with, and then we'll kind of get off on this. We're looking at a set of new old stock Atlas Craftsman 10-12-inch lathe change gears, 10 pieces, $199.99. Now, a couple of different ways of looking at this. $199.99, 10 change gears, that makes them $19 a piece. And what are we doing and $10 shipping. Okay, so that makes them $19 a piece for change gears. That's a fair buy. That's okay. You're getting a fair deal there. Now the problem I have with this is the listing says new old stock Atlas Craftsman 10-12-inch lathe change gears, 10 piece. Condition new, open box. When you look at these gears, and if you look at them, the very first picture shows them vertically here. When you look at the very top, the first two gears, you can see markings on those gears. And they could just be dings for the most part, but when you really look at them close, and they're dirty, there's things that show on there. And you look at a few of these gears and you look close, they have markings on the sides of the gears where they've been run. That is not, in my opinion, new old stock. Now, the way they're going to get away with this, and when we look at the second picture, let's look while we're right here. If you look at several of these gears, you can look on the bosses where the spacers and the bolts would go, and you see some markings that to me indicates that those have been clamped up. And when you compare that to the gear pattern markings on the first set, those are used. Those, as far as I'm concerned, are used. Now, the way the seller is getting away with that, and several sellers will do this, it says, when you look at condition, it says new open box, an item in excellent new condition with no functional defects. The item may be missing original, let's see. The item may be missing original packaging and may have been used for testing or demo purposes. That's the way they're getting away with it. They're going to say, oh no, it was never run, but it was bolted onto a machine for demonstration purposes, or it's the way it came, but it's never been run. It's true, it's never been run. But to me, especially on a piece of equipment, if it is new old stock, it is brand new, it has never been installed, it's never been run. So to me, this is partially eBay's fault for allowing this, and it's partially the seller's fault for taking advantage of this. These people are, this is unscrupulous selling practices, and if we allow it to happen, we deserve what we get. There was one other thing that I wanted to look at that I had come across, and it was in a seller's description, and I know exactly where it was. It was on that, as well as several other listings. It was on the milling machine on those sheet metal covers. And the seller says he bought that machine with the idea of restoring it, stripped it down, was cleaning it up, and decided that it was going to take more work than it was worth to do it, and I'm kind of paraphrasing there. But so he decided to part it out. That's a piss poor excuse. If you've got a machine that you initially think is well enough to rebuild, if you can't, if it's beyond your capabilities, means, or your desires to rebuild it, then sell the machine as a whole to someone who will take the time, effort, and whatever it takes to rebuild that into a good functioning machine. So that the idea that you're doing everybody a service by parting out a machine that you've stripped down and decided it was too much hassle for you to do, that doesn't fly with me. So anyway, that's my spiels for the day. If we allow these people to promote these things in as being in a condition that they're not, if we treat them as collector's items rather than functioning tools that we can utilize in our shops, if we continue to pay these high prices for things that people will rip us off over, then we deserve what we get. And if we have any brains at all, we deserve more than that. So that's my rant for the day. I picked on everybody and anything that I could today, and the reality is I'm just waiting for my $12.5 million that's being sent to me from an inheritance from a king such and such that passed away, and his widow's trying to get his money out of the country, or what other scam is going on. So once I receive my $12.5 million, I'm not going to do any of this anymore. I'm going to retire on the beach someplace and enjoy my life. So anyway, hopefully we found this entertaining today, because that's about all I've got is entertainment today. I've got nothing really useful other than to rag on unscrupulous sellers. So comments or suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below. I'm not editing this. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to go right from here. I'm going to load it in the computer. I'm going to render this thing, and I'm going to put it up there. So Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to go out and work in the shop on projects I want to work on. And thanks for taking the time to watch, guys.